Yeah, definitely. I didn't know what I was dealing with, but I just knew I wasn't myself. I knew I wasn't myself. I couldn't snap out of it. I fought 2 times that year. I'm the only fighter who fought 2 times in 2020. I fought before the pandemic and after the pandemic. So I felt like I put a lot of work in that year, and just the work kind of like it got to me a little bit, especially with all the things around the world going on. I felt like overwhelmed. I usually don't worry about what's going on outside of the ring and stuff like that. But it was just a weird time. It's just like it didn't feel like it was time for me to fight.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So what you just heard is the voice of 2-division world champion, Puerto Rican superstar boxer, Danny Swift Garcia, okay? Danny Swift Garcia is heading into his ring return. Danny Garcia is 36 wins, 3 losses, no draw, 21 big wins by way of knockout. He's 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 68-inch arm reach. He took on and lost to undefeated, newly crowned 3-belt unified welterweight world champion who holds the WBC, WBA, IBF, Ring Magazine welterweight world title, widely considered by many to be top 2, if not the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Errol the True Spence Jr., who has 28 wins, no losses, no draw, 22 big wins by way of knockout, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. With that said, they fought December 5th of 2020, and Danny Garcia, he got outclassed. He got dominated in the fight against Errol Spence Jr. Danny Garcia hasn't fought since that fight. We are in July of 2022. He's going into a fight with Jose Benavidez Jr. And Danny Garcia, you know, in his press tour to build up to this fight with Jose Benavidez Jr., Danny Garcia has been asked, obviously, a lot about his fight with Errol Spence Jr. because that's the last time we saw him in the ring, okay? We haven't seen Danny Garcia in the ring since that fight with Errol Spence Jr. So everybody wants to know what happened. Danny Garcia, he admitted that this is the only fight, there's no doubt, he lost cleanly, okay? So it looks like he's going to fight July 30th at the Barclays Center here in Brooklyn, New York, okay? And so Danny Garcia, you know, in 2 weeks, he admitted he lost cleanly. He lost badly. This is the only fight. The other fights were competitive, is what Danny Garcia was saying. His other losses, meaning his loss to former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman, and his loss to, you know, 2-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter, okay? Danny Garcia, in one interview, said the only reason he lost to Errol Spence, he thought it was a competitive fight. He's contradicting himself. He thought it was a competitive fight, but Errol Spence's jab was the difference in the fight, and that's the only reason he lost. But if you look at the actual numbers, it was a close fight, and the power punches landed. It was a close fight if you look at the power punches landed, right? If you base it off of that, is what he's saying, right? But then, now he's saying that he wasn't prepared at all leading up into this fight because of the pandemic. And now he's saying that he didn't have a good training camp. Now, all in this same conversation with Kate Upton, right? He says that the fight, when he was walking to the fight and going to the fight itself, he thought he was just focused, but he realized he was just spaced out. But now he's saying that in the training camp, he was spaced out as well, and he shouldn't have taken the fight. But keep in mind, Danny Garcia was the one who pushed for this fight with Errol Spence Jr. After Errol Spence Jr. defeated Shawn Porter, right, September of 2019, Danny Garcia got in the ring pushing for the fight against Errol Spence Jr., right? He was the WBC World Boxing Council mandatory. I don't know how that happened, but he was, right? And Danny Garcia was pushing for the fight with Errol Spence Jr., saying he saw something in Errol Spence against Shawn Porter that he felt like he could exploit. He was the one that kept pushing for the fight. Now he's saying he should have never taken the fight. This is, you know, a lot of fighters, every time a fighter loses to Errol Spence, they have a rhyme and reason as to why they lost. They didn't just lose fair and square. Kell Brook he says that it was his weight, right? And the fact that he had just previously suffered a major eye injury, suffering a broken orbital bone against Gennady Triple G Golovkin when he dared to be great, jumping up from 147 to 160 when he should have been fighting his mandatory, which was Errol Spence, and he challenged Gennady Golovkin and broke his orbital bone in the 5th round. And then 9 months later, he lost to Errol Spence, and Errol Spence broke his orbital bone, the other orbital bone, in the 11th round of their fight and took the belt. And he says he was damaged goods and the weight was an issue. He couldn't make 147. Then Errol Spence dominates. Sean Porter says that, he made too many mistakes in the fight. He wished he could do it over, right? Okay. Then Errol Spence, he dominates Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia is now saying that it was Errol Spence's jab that beat him, right? But now he's saying that he was suffering from anxiety leading up into the fight. That's the reason why he wasn't focused and he should have never took the fight. But he was the one that was pushing for the fight, more so than Errol Spence, because everybody started to clamor for Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford at that point in time. But Errol Spence, just 12 days later, after the Sean Porter fight, suffered a horrific car accident, which saw him out the ring for 14 months. So imagine, Errol Spence was suffering from anxiety himself. He stated that he didn't know what to expect from himself. He was only 40% to 50% of himself, okay? He stated that, he didn't even know if he would ever be the same, right? And he too had to deal with the global pandemic as well, right? So Danny Garcia got outclassed in this fight. And first off, you said this is the fight you clearly lost, but then in return, you say that it was due to Errol Spence's jab was the reason why you lost. And the power punches was the same, okay? So was it a close fight, or did you clearly lose, or was it because you was ill prepared? Which one was it, right? And he said that it was tough for him to deal with, right? We haven't seen him in the ring for 2 years, okay? So now he's saying that, this is, I don't like when this happens in the sport of boxing. Listen.
I really had to force myself to do it.
So what are you talking about for the Errol fight? At that point, you felt like...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like, I don't know, I had to, I really had to force myself to do it.
So what are you talking about for the Errol fight? At that point, you felt like...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like, I don't know, I had to, usually I'm excited. I didn't feel excited for it.
Wow. So you hear it, he said, usually I feel excited, right? I wasn't excited for the fight. I had to push myself. So why didn't you pull out, right? This is watering down Errol Spence's victory. Errol Spence was out the ring for 14 months. He has suffered a horrific car accident. He was dealing with the same global pandemic that you was. And Errol Spence had lost family members as well to it, right? So it's irresponsible on the part of Danny Garcia to do that, and especially now, right? July 30th, again, he's going to fight Jose Benavidez. He's making his ring return. All too often, fighters have, and again, they're human beings, so I don't doubt that Danny Garcia was going through something at all, okay? I'm sure that Danny Garcia was definitely going through something, for sure, right? And hats off to him, right? But you gave multiple different reasons as to why you lost to Errol Spence. You stated that the reason that you lost to Errol Spence was because of Errol Spence's jab was the difference. And you landed just as much power punches, and it was a close fight. But then in the same token, you're saying that you clearly lost the fight, and that's the only fight that was no doubt a fight that was in debate that you lost. So I'm confused. Listen.
I usually don't worry about what's going on outside of the ring and stuff like that. But it was just a weird time. It's just it didn't feel like it was time for me to fight. I really had to force myself to do it.
So what are you talking about for the Errol fight? At that point, you felt like...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like, I don't know, I had to, usually I'm excited. I didn't feel excited for it.
Wow. So again, like I said, he said that he had to force himself for the fight, and then he stated that he fought twice a year. Okay, he's the only fighter that fought twice that year. He had fought Ivan Rakic, right? And so he's saying that because he had to fight Ivan, he fought. He pushed himself to the brink. And he feel like he overdid it at that point in time. Styles made fights, and and regardless if it was dealing with a global pandemic or not, you know, Errol Spence skill set would have saw him victor over Danny Garcia, period. Now Danny Garcia saying that he's going to rectify it at 154. He's going up to junior middleweight, and he's going to challenge, you know, the champions up there. He's looking to fight Jamel Charlo, the two-time unified, now undisputed junior middleweight world champion, close friend of Errol Spence, and they share the same trainer, well-renowned trainer, two-time trainer of the year, future Hall of Famer Derrick James. So styles make fights, skills pay the bills. Errol Spence's skill set is what won him the fight, regardless of anything else that was happening outside the ring. So Errol Spence is in negotiation for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing between himself and undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO welterweight world champion, who's widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terrence Bud Crawford, who's 38 wins, no loss and no draw, 29 big wins by way of knockout, 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. That's the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. Can't wait to see how it plays out. Seems like everybody got excuses when they lose to Errol Spence or before they lose to Errol Spence. He's basic, he's vanilla, he's just, you know, fundamentally sound. It's like people don't understand why they lost to him, period. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button, drop a comment in the comment section, let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.